moments and just play things through. Now that we're remeshing via code. Uh, Prior to any remeshing, I have a vertex count of 1,900 or 1,966,000, almost 2 million. So let's go ahead and run this and apply one at a time a remeshing to each object. So I'm going to go ahead and run what I ran in the last video, and we'll give it a moment. Okay, so now we're down to less than 1 million. Great. Let's go ahead and apply this to another item, see what we get. This time what we'll do is, instead of the head, we'll apply it to the skull. And then after we run it, we'll take a look and see how the skull looks, see if that seems satisfactory or not. All right, so let's go ahead and run it again. Check back in a moment. Okay, so now we're down to less than 200,000. That's great. Let's hide the head and see what the skull looks like. All right, so it's looking pretty choppy in some spots. Now, of course, we can do some smoothing and stuff, but I am wondering if we should just redo this with a different voxel size. Maybe if the voxels are a little bit smaller. So let's go with, say, 2.4 and rerun this. Let's see what that gets us, and we'll take a look at this in a few moments. All right, so let's see what we have. Move the head out of the way. We have maintained a lot more detail, so I think that's working. And when we have every item in the scene, we're at 219,000 vertices. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. This time, we will do it with the mandible. Since mandible is probably going to have similar issues as the skull, trying to maintain the level of detail within the teeth, that type of thing. We'll do that, and we'll, keeping that in mind, we'll set the mandible also at around 2.4, and we'll see what happens when we run that and check back on this again in a few moments. All right, now we're down to 150,000 vertices, and if we hide the head and take a look, well, oh my gosh, I have a problem with the mandible. And I actually kind of figured that might happen. So this is going to be something we deal with shortly. That'll be a discussion point on how to deal with this, and I'll explain that in the upcoming video. For the moment, I'm going to leave it. From what I can see, and from what did maintain its integrity, it seems like the detail that's there is reasonable. So I'm going to leave this line of code, and we will deal with how to address this problem shortly. In the meantime, I think let's do this one more time regarding the ventricles. So we'll pop this in here. And ventricles. And then I think for voxel size, I'm actually going to go larger just to see what happens. So let's just do something crazy like a 4. All right, let's run this and we'll check on this in a few moments. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to hide the head. I'm going to hide the skull. We don't need to look at that horrible mandible. Let's take a peek at this and decide what we think. All right, it's looking pretty choppy. But my suspicion is that if I smooth this out, we will probably have something that looks pretty decent. So I think I am actually going to leave that. Let's tab out of there. And just kind of peeking at what we had for an overall vertex count, we're down to 91,500, which is still quite a few vertices. But depending on the needs of the project, we may wean it down even more. For the moment, though, I'm going to leave it as it is. And in an upcoming video, I will deal with that Swiss cheese mandible that we saw.